What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs. I'm your host, Chris Raybon. This is your NFL Week 16 DFS and fantasy football preview. As always, I am joined by one of the most accurate rankers in the game, the most accurate right now, the odds maker, Sean Kerner. And Sean had some more touchdown hits on this pod last week. Noah Gray, we had Jerome Ford, Justice Hill, Freiermuth. Ty Johnson had a good game, even though he didn't hit. He had 114 yards on 5 catches. Laporta, so some decent calls. How you feeling?
Yeah, good. We're not going to give 8 to 9 touchdowns every week. Like, what was it, week 14? Again, we're giving out more value guys. So the fact that we still hit on 4 of these was good. And I stuck true to my word. I had Keaton Mitchell to score the last touchdown.
Yeah.
In that Ravens game. He was a healthy scratch, so got my money back. But I thought that was a sneaky play. And sure enough, it was Rasheen Ali was in there for the final drive. Had the right idea, wrong player, but we kind of said that. Mitchell is, 50-50 chance to even suit up. But I bet he would have ripped off a long touchdown run against the Giants. Ali's not as good. So
maybe he wouldn't have. Maybe that's why he's being scratched, because I can't imagine, the way he played last year, and they're not, they really, especially with the Deontay Johnson roster spot not being used anyway, they would have a spot for a guy that's just there for offense. But and they're not using another tight end. They didn't bring up another tight end, so they would have the active spots. I just think maybe in practice his knee is not responding, the way they want, or the way he's not as explosive as he was, because there's no reason Rasheen Ali hasn't played until now. Whereas Mitchell, when he was the third back, they were using him. Last year, and even this year, he had a couple pass down snaps. So, I think it's got to be something.
This is actually the 1 year anniversary of when he tore his ACL. How I know that, I don't know. I was researching it last week, but he actually tore it a year ago today. So again, it was such a late season ACL tear. He's probably, like you said, not fully healthy yet. So that's got to be why they're still holding him out.
Yeah. So we will break down, of course, every game on the slate. Quick reminder, all of our fantasy football content available right now over at fantasylabs.com. All of our rankings, projections, and more at fantasylabs.com. And quick note, we'll have a special Christmas episode with the Christmas slate separate from this episode next week on the Fantasy Flex. That will be dropping on Monday, so look out for that. But got a couple of Saturday games this week. Start off with the Texans at the Chiefs. Of course, the big news here, Patrick Mahomes questionable with that high ankle sprain, probably misses this one. Chiefs are 2-point home underdogs with a total of 39.5. Sean, who do you like in this spot?
Yeah, I'm going with 2 tight ends here. The first one, Dalton Schultz. He had a quiet week last week, only caught 2 balls for 13 yards, but Cade Stover was a late scratch due to his appendectomy. So I'm assuming he's out again this week. And, it resulted in Schultz having a season-high 91% routes run rate. So I think this is a good time to buy low. I don't think the Texans threw the ball that much last week. So I think we should see a bump in, passing volume here, which should help Schultz. I think he's a sneaky bet for a touchdown as well, just given, the massive amount of playing time. So going to go with Schultz for the Texans. And then the Chiefs got to stick with Noah Gray here. Just continues to play well, despite, playing behind Travis Kelce. Had another solid 2-catch, 21-yard game with a touchdown last week. This offense, will probably take a hit with Carson Wentz under center. But, it should also shake up how targets are distributed. And obviously Kelce is one of the best tight ends in the league. But, he has a mind meld with Patrick Mahomes. He likely doesn't have with Carson Wentz. So figure, Wentz might spread the ball around a little bit more, which could help a guy like Noah Gray. Either way, I think, Noah Gray's probably the guy that's probably the safer bet to at least maintain similar production without Patrick Mahomes. So give me Noah Gray here.
Yeah, Noah Gray playing really well. I mean, he's becoming that threat, because for a long time they didn't use him in the red zone as much, but now he's kind of becoming that red zone threat. So many more than half his career touchdowns in the last 4 or 5 weeks of this season. He really was not a touchdown guy prior to that. So yeah, it's good to see for him and for them, and maybe he's the new Travis Kelce one day. When Kelce retires. I mean,
that's probably the plan.
Yep. All right, we have the second game of the doubleheader, Steelers at Ravens. Ravens 6-point favorites, a total 46.5. Gotta go with your boy Pat Fryermuth here yet again. I just think that he's always a good touchdown bet on the Steelers, and look at the potential game script here. It's another game where they could be trailing a little bit, but Pickens may be back for this one. But either way, the Ravens have shown some vulnerability. Two tight ends in the middle of the field in the past, so still like him in this spot. And for the Ravens, Isaiah Likely, the Ravens have struggled versus the Steelers in the past, and I think that sets up better for Likely, because when you have these games where the Ravens are just expected to completely blow teams out, Likely he only has 11 of his catches have come when leading. When tied, he's got 4, and when trailing, he's got the majority of his catches, over 20. So all 4 of his touchdowns when trailing in a game. So I think that this is a spot just a little sneakier for Likely, who's coming off, a few duds. So I like him to bounce back in this spot against the Steelers, in a spot where I think more people will be looking at Andrews and Bateman, because Bateman's coming off the big game. All right, let's go to the main slate. Cards at the Panthers, +4 at home for Carolina. The total is 47. Who do you like in this one, Sean?
Yeah, so for the Cardinals, I would say for DFS, Greg Dortch would be a dart throw for bigger GPPs. He's coming off his best game of the season. Had a carry for 6 yards, 3 catches for 60 yards. DeMarcado of the Cardinals was out, so they were kind of using DJ Dallas as like a pass catching back. But I was watching the game, and they were kind of using Greg Dortch kind of like a pass catching back, setting up some really cool screen plays for him. And he's really good. Once you give him the ball and get him some space, he's really good. So, he had a good game. I think they keep it rolling here against the Panthers. So he's just a sneaky play in DFS. But if we're talking touchdowns, give me Trey McBride. I think if there's anybody more due for a touchdown this year, it's Trey McBride. Still has 0 with 89 catches. I think it's a great spot for him to get a touchdown and, time to put that narrative to bed. So they might, force feed him a ball in the red zone here. But, the Panthers tend to use zone coverage at a high rate, and he's just been incredible versus zone. So give me him for the touchdown in this parlay, even if it's chalky. I don't care. On the flip side, let's go with more of a dart throw for the Panthers. Let's go with David Moore. Jalen Coker returned to the lineup last week, which directly led to, David Moore's playing time taking a pretty big hit, back down to like a 65% routes run rate. But now with Xavier Legette, now week to week, I think Moore is going to return back to that 90% routes run rate this week. And he's been productive when given playing time this year. So I think, he's a sneaky bet for, DFS and for a touchdown. So plus this is a revenge game. I'm just kidding. He's one of those players where you have a 50-50 shot by saying it's a revenge game. It is not. But yeah, I like David Moore here to kind of return back to that, starting role with a ton of playing time. And he's looked good with Bryce Young. So I think he's in a sneaky spot here.
The Cardinals did have a Moore, though. It was Chris Moore, right? That's the Cardinals used to have him.
Yeah.
I was like,
they might have had him at some point. Who the hell knows?
Bengals hosting the Browns, 7-point favorites at home for Cincinnati, total 47. It's Jerome Ford for me on the Brown side. I just don't trust any of their pass catchers with DTR in there. DTR probably a better rushing touchdown, anytime touchdown bet than anyone else. But for DFS, Ford at 5,600, I think is a strong play. He was already cutting into Nick Chubb's passing down work. His early down work and getting all of the passing down work. Now Chubb is done for the season. So I think Ford, still is that, RB1 in terms of usage for the Browns. Foreman will probably mix in for a few carries, that he'll be active for the first time in a while. And Pierre Strong's kind of that number 3 back who is Ford's direct backup. So still like Ford here. The Bengals defense has been getting shredded lately, even though they are the big favorites here. But I think the game script, if Cleveland gets behind, it plays to Ford's advantage anyway. And then on the Bengals side, I like Yosivas at 3,600. He's a guy who, you always look to him as like that cheap third receiver to fill out your lineup in like a bigger tournament, because he hasn't put up much production as of late, but he's 3,600. He's still running a route on 80-85% of Joe Burrow's dropbacks. So any given game, he's a threat for 80, 90, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. He has that kind of upside the way Joe Burrow's playing, and he's not coming off the field. Burton must be sweeping through meetings, because he hasn't gotten into Josevach's playing time at all, which I thought might happen. But they really like Josevach too, so I think he's a guy who they're looking toward next year at some point. I mean, there's technically, I guess, still alive, but either way, they're looking toward next year, or they're just trying to prepare for the playoffs. Josevach is a guy that you kind of want to get going, because there's going to be so much attention on T. Higgins and on Jamar Chase, but you might lose Higgins in the offseason. At least that's a rumor. So either way, I like Josevach to potentially pop here for another couple of big games. All right, Rams, Jets. Colder atmosphere for Aaron Rodgers than these last 2 games in Florida, but the Jets 3.5-point dogs, a total 46.5. So another outdoor game for Stafford as well. Who do you like?
Yeah, so for the Rams, maybe like Cooper Kupp's interesting because he's coming off the goose egg, right? So he might be a flyer here, but I'm going with
do anything.
Yeah. So he's probably like the true value play here, but I'm going with like a true dart throw. Tyler Higbee, who sounds like he's going to make his season debut this week, coming back from the ACL tear. It seemed like he was close to returning the last couple weeks, but they chose not to activate him. He was activated, so I'm guessing they were waiting for him to be closer to 100%. And he'll probably be pretty limited, but the fact that they waited so long, maybe that he will play close to a full-time role. Either way, you could tell McVay's been kind of frustrated because Colby Parkinson was the lead tight end for the first half of the season. Then he was kind of benched for Davis Allen, and then Allen's now been benched for Parkinson. So I think McVay is happy for Higbee to be back. So, and if Higbee's limited, it's probably going to be, obvious pass situations, maybe red zone packages. So I think Higbee's going to be sneaky here in his, first game of the season. And on the other side, for the Jets, I'm going to go with Alan Lazard, coming off a goose egg last week on 4 targets. But he ran a route on 83% of Aaron Rodgers' dropbacks. And the Jets have nothing to play for. Rodgers is playing backyard football right now, running it, throwing it to his buddies. So, Lazard is one of those guys where when they get in the red zone, he'll be looking to his boy. That's his guy in the red zone. 5 touchdowns on the season in 9 games. So when it comes to Lazard, we're not looking for a 7-catch game or anything. We're looking for, a cheap touchdown. I think certainly here, against the Rams, we could get that. So I think he's sneaky coming off the goose egg last week, even though his playing time, his targets, he saw 4 targets, were encouraging at least for these next few weeks.
Yeah, I mean he's their starting number 3 receiver. He'll be out there. Rodgers, though, I mean the way he's targeted Devontae, he could target Lazard like that at any time as well. Earlier in the year, he kind of was. So I think he is sneaky, but always a dart throw, obviously. Bills hosting the Pats. Pats 14-point road underdogs. Total is 46. For the Bills, we talked about this on the projections pod, but Ray Davis, really like him as the kind of game script play for the Bills here. Last week it was Ty Johnson in what looked like a shootout. Here they could get up, and he is their more early down kind of replacement for James Cook, and does give you a lot of leverage because I'm sure Cook will have some ownership just because, he has the multi-touchdown upside every week, and he's coming off another game like that. But you could get some leverage on this whole backfield. Maybe even Johnson might be more popular than he should. So you might get some leverage on this whole backfield with Davis at 4,700. And for the Patriots, same thing, game script play, Demario Douglas. He plays kind of like Jaden Reed, the poor man's Jaden Reed. He only plays in 1-1 personnel, 3 wide personnel. But this week, the Patriots, even more than usual, project to be in that as 14-point underdogs. So him and Drake May probably have the best chemistry. I mean, Butte is out there. He got a pass intercepted where he batted up into the air last week. Kendrick Bourne he's still there, but he's somewhat, not as high upside as last year. And, Henry is playing well, but for some reason, not getting the touchdown. So Douglas actually did get a touchdown last week. I don't know if that continues, but we'll see. Still like him to get, more routes than he usually does, which is always a positive because he can catch, 6 to 10 balls in the right environment. So like Douglas this week.
I'm surprised they don't use Marcus Jones more. They had that design play to him that went 18 yards last week. They have their own Travis Hunter right now. I wouldn't be shocked if they try to get him more involved too.
Yeah, he's been last couple of weeks. He's been getting at least like a play or two. So
Yeah,
that's something to look out for. But can't play him in DFS. So.
yeah. You bet him touchdowns, pick sixes.
Yeah.
Receiving touchdowns.
That's actually the touchdown market. Definitely.
Yeah, multiple paths now.
But they don't always list him though. You'd have to probably pick like a Patriots defense touchdown. But then it would be if they would list him.
Yes,
it would have to be some super long odds, and then that would be amazing. All right, we got the Giants at the Falcons. Falcons 10-point favorites, total 41.5. Could be Tim Boyle for the Giants. Could be Drew Lock. Looks like DeVito is gonna miss with a concussion. I would guess it's Boyle just because he played decently down the stretch in that blowout. But who do you like in this one?
Nobody. If I have to pick a Giants pass catcher, I'll just stick with Darius Slayton. I don't like it, especially if Tim Boyle's under center. Ideally Drew Lock returns here. I think that'll help. But, Slayton's also been losing playing time to Jalen Hyatt. Either way, Giants might not even score a touchdown here. And Malik Neighbors is too obvious, chalky. But I'll stick with Slayton. He's always a threat for a deep ball or two. Potentially a touchdown if it's not Neighbors. So if I'm forced to pick anybody, it's Slayton. However, I do like Tyler Algier a lot on the Falcons side. I easily cashed my Kirk Cousins under 32.5 pass attempt prop on Monday Night Football. I hope all of my props go that easily the rest of the way. That was the Falcons did everything possible to avoid having Kirk Cousins drop back to pass last week. Should be able to get away with a similar approach here. And this is the perfect type of game script for Algier to mix in and give Bijan some breathers. So this is a game where I'm probably going to end up projecting Algier for double-digit carries. And he has touchdown upside. This is a great spot for him and Bijan, of course. But against this Giants defense in a game, the Falcons could run the ball 40-plus times. Give me Tyler Algier here.
Yeah, and one of the things that really helps that running game in general and a guy like Algier is that they're starting to play more 1-2 personnel, which is double tight end. They weren't doing that almost at all in first 12, 13 weeks of the season. But these last couple of weeks, they've been playing that a lot more, early in games, not just at the goal line. And if you're gonna play that kind of personnel, that's just gonna help a guy like Algier, get some blockers behind him, get a hole and go downhill. So like that. He got 12 carries in the Raiders game. He's had 4 games this year with double-digit carries, all coming in the last 10 weeks.
Yeah. Instead of Ray McLeod being out there blocking, it's Charlie Werner, right? So
yeah, exactly. That's
great point.
Big step up. Big step up. All right, Eagles at the Washington Commanders. 3.5-point spread in favor of the Eagles on the road. Total 45.5. For Washington, I'll go with Dyami Brown. He's been the guy replacing Noah Brown the most. He's seen the biggest uptick in routes. So tough matchup against the Eagles, but Dyami Brown, they were scheming kind of plays up for him early in the year. So that could happen. You could get like a little kind of rush attempt or something similar, a little push pass to him. But he's also a deep ball guy. So, if you are going to go for a dart throw in a spot like this, I think Dyami Brown makes sense at 3,400. And then for the Eagles, it's always tough with them because Jalen Hurts, he's kind of a one-read guy, and his first reads are always really good. So, but still got to go Calcaterra here. I think he's the only guy that has a chance. If you have AJ coming off a monster game and you have Smith coming off a monster game, you have Lattimore for Washington. So maybe you kind of double one of the other guys. And Jahan Dotson, I know it's a revenge game, but they look to Calcaterra before Dotson most of the time on these progressions. So still got to go with him. Washington 23rd against tight ends. So there's a chance at least for, maybe a touchdown, maybe a couple extra passes his way if they really sell out to stop the starters. The top 2 receivers. All right. Titans at Colts. Colts 4-point favorites, the total 42.5. Looks like Mason Rudolph will start for Tennessee. That's kind of the reading between the tea leaves. The Titans coach Callahan says we're looking at a change at quarterback this week. That's got to be Rudolph, I would think. So, that's what you got to know for this one. And Anthony Richardson still the Colts starter. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Tajay Spears here. It looked like Tony Pollard was really struggling playing through that ankle injury, lost a fumble. So wouldn't be shocked if they just try to get Spears more work just because they really have nothing to play for right now. Why, keep, Pollard giving him a massive workload when he's clearly injured. So I could see Spears getting more work this week. I think Mason Rudolph helped Spears as well because he was checking down to Spears a ton. Spears had 5 receptions from Rudolph last week. Plus, he came in on a goal line carry. And Spears is just a fun player to watch. He's so explosive. And instead of taking this goal line carry, up the middle, he just decided to jump over the whole pile for the easy score. So, again, just everything he does is exciting. I think this is a good spot for him against the Colts as well. So, give me Spears from the Titans side. And then here we go for the Colts, A.D. Mitchell. I think this is a good spot for him because Alec Pierce, he was ruled out due to a concussion, assuming he'll be in the concussion protocol this week, which means there's a good chance, he's going to be held out. And Mitchell would be a near 1-for-1 replacement for Pierce to be, just running wind sprints most of the time. And hopefully he gets like an accurate deep ball from Richardson and scores a long touchdown here. That's in his range of outcomes. He's been so unlucky on all those all season. Just so many near deep balls, near touchdowns. Last week he had 4 targets where one of them, he would have been in the running for a contested catch for a touchdown, and Richardson just decided to throw it 10 feet over his head. But again, I think he's going to be out there for over 80% of Richardson's dropbacks if Pierce is ruled out. And kind of what you've been hinting at, if Richardson gets benched and Flacco comes in, that's going to be massive for Mitchell. That would help Mitchell out a ton. So I'm just going to bank on Mitchell's upside here and assuming Pierce is out and go with Mitchell here. I think he's, high upside play for DFS and touchdown markets. He obviously has a low floor, like 0 catches is in his range of outcomes, but love his upside here if Pierce is out.
Yeah, it's because 0 completions is in the Anthony
exactly
Richardson's outcome. What a disaster. And Kylan Granson actually caught passes last week too.
I was going to take his receiving prop was like 6.5 yards. Yeah. He's out there like 60% of the time. Just give me one accurate pass to that guy, and he's going to clear that. But yeah, he's a sneaky play too.
No, he's not.
Well, I mean, if you're in like a milli maker,
no, he's not. He's not. He's not good. I don't think he has a touchdown. Did he have a touchdown yet? He didn't have a second touchdown. I think he got one ever. I think we were talking about that last week with Noah Fant.
Granson
as a Seahawk. Yeah, Granson has 1 touchdown in 4 years.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect like Noah Fant's crazy. Noah Fant's out there catching balls and things like that. Granson, not too shocked about that. Fant is definitely due. Noah's more due than Trey McBride, though.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good segue into the Vikings at the Seahawks. Seahawks 3.5-point home underdogs, total 42.5. Geno Smith got injured in the Sunday night game, so we'll see about him. Might be Sam Howell, but I do like Noah Fant here, 3,600, because he's that kind of pass-catching tight end. He's been out there for about 3/4 of the snaps, and I think, if they get behind, he'll still be out there, maybe catching some easy passes over the middle. And for the Vikings, they're kind of going to their main guys this time of year, but I do think Jalen Naylor at 3,300 sneaky. He's the only guy still getting, routes on this team that's not like super high priced. And you had Hawkinson with the 5 catches last game. You have Addison playing really well, Jefferson. So, Naylor's the only guy besides maybe a Cam Akers type that's sneaky, but Akers, came through last week, so I think he'll be a little more popular. So got to go with Naylor at 3,300. Jags, Raiders, 1-point favorite, the total 40. Who do you like in this one?
I'm going to go with a couple tight ends here. First off, Brenton Strange. You've been able to talk about him the first 2 pods. Now it's my turn. But yeah, he's essentially in the Evan Ingram role. 84% routes run rate last week, 12 targets, 11 catches, 73 yards. Got me feeling nicey. Probably won't match that again, but the underlying usage is there. And like I mentioned, Josh Reynolds is out there kind of running clear outs to open things up for Brian Thomas Jr. and Brenton Strange. So, I mean, Brenton Strange is essentially a top 10 tight end this week. I look for him to keep it rolling. So give me him here, especially against the Raiders. And on the other side, I'm going to go with another tight end, not Brock Bowers, but Michael Mayer. He came back down to earth last week, only caught one pass for 11 yards, although he almost caught like a deeper pass. I have to go back and watch it. I couldn't tell if it was his fault or Desmond Ritter's fault, but either way,
probably Ritter's fault, yeah.
Probably Ritter's fault, for being honest. But he maintained, the Raiders are sticking with the two tight end sets, which is nice. So he still ran a route, 65% of the time. And this is a good spot against the Jaguars, just a good matchup in general, but another game where I could see them sticking with two tight end sets here as well. Ideally, Aiden O'Connell returns to the lineup. Would hate to see, Desmond Ridder or Carter Bradley under center here. So if AOC returns, I'm going to like Michael Mayer even more. But again, it's been encouraging to see them using so many two tight end sets that Michael Mayer is almost in a full-time role. We obviously know he has a ton of upside. Obviously, that's capped with Brock Bowers there, but I think he's still sneaky here in DFS and in touchdown markets.
Yeah, I mean, they have no receivers at this point. I mean, who is it? Like Terrace Marshall, I guess, is their number 3 right now.
Terrace Marshall.
And they don't seem that eager. They don't seem that eager to plug him
Keaton
in.
or somebody.
Keaton, and then you got, is Justin Shorter a tight end or a wide receiver? I don't even know.
Nobody knows. GIF.
He's there.
No, he's there. He's there. He's a tight end now.
Yeah.
But
so they have 4 tight ends. So that makes sense because Bryant is back. So if you have 4 tight ends active, that usually means you're going to be a 2 tight end team. Niners at the Miami Dolphins. You have the Mike McDaniel revenge game. I'm going to go with Malik Washington, our guy for the Dolphins. 70% of the routes with Jalen Waddle going down and Grant DeBose. Hope he's okay going down. So this week, looks like Waddle is highly questionable, but either way, I think Washington just a good play to have in the spot this time of year. They've been trying to get him more involved. He caught 5 balls for 62 last week, and if you look at his rushing upside, I mean, this year he has 4 carries for 36 yards and a touchdown, and in the preseason he had 2 carries. One went for 21, the other one went for 40. So he has 2 preseason carries for 61, 4 regular season carries for 36. I mean, he's 6 carries into his career. He's almost at 100 yards, already has a touchdown. So just in terms of like a little schemed up gadget kind of play, I think he's a good bet, to pop off a big play. And then he could get, that number 2 even receiver usage if Waddle is out. And then for the Niners, I can't believe this guy is down to this. We're here with this guy, but Deebo Samuel is down to 5,200. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him. I mean, it's just the narrative is just so down on him, and rightfully so. I mean, his numbers have just been straight garbage over the past, really the whole season. I mean, he had like a couple of one good game against Seattle. I think he had a long touchdown and maybe one other decent game, but it's been hit or really mostly missed with Deebo Samuel. I don't know if he's fully recovered from that pneumonia or what, but I don't know if as many people are going because of that. I don't know if as many people are going to be willing to take the discount, which, it still looks obvious at 5,200. But I think his recent game log may scare more people off than it should. He's still going to be out there 85% of the time. We'll see what's going on with the quarterback situation, but either way, he's liable to get schemed up carries, schemed up plays. At some point he's not going to drop something, we think. Only a couple weeks left in the season. I'm sure he's going to want to pad his stats a little bit, so he should still be motivated, and the weather should be at least better than it's been some of these last few weeks. We'll see. The total still isn't that high, but it is in Miami, so like Deebo at 5,200. Can't believe that he's in this group of people, but
Yep, exactly. And I was probably a week early on Malik Washington per usual. So enjoy the 2 touchdown game with 8 catches and, a 50-yard rush for a touchdown. But he is due. If Waddle's out, he's going to be the guy. And probably part of the reason, other than Odell Beckham just, being washed, part of the reason they did release Beckham is just they do believe in Malik Washington being, their number 3 receiver.
Yeah, and even if so part of it was also DeBose was coming back, so they remember they were using him. So it was like, but now he's almost certainly not playing, right? So
right.
They have, they have no choice. But yeah, I think Washington was going to be the 3 regardless. But yeah, they clearly weren't high on Beckham. They were higher on DeBose, but he's going to be out, and then Waddle could be out. So either way, yeah, Washington's getting a big bump going forward. All right, before we get out of here, we have a new Action Network account on the app called Parlay Express. So we always like to choose our favorite touchdown bet for each of us from the show and post it there. We also post, I think, all the ones from each game. So we had the Ford Noah Gray SGP hit last week. So Sean, who are you going with for your touchdown bet based on the guys you have in DFS this week?
How about you go first?
All right.
Do you know who you want? Because I want us to hit it, so I'm going to try to find a guy that's not like 8-1.
I mean, if you want to do that, then I'll go with Debo. Let's go Debo.
Okay. Should I go Trey McBride? What kind of odds has he been?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, we'll get so many routes. That'll be so many routes.
They're probably both at their low point, right? People are probably still betting on McBride because he's due. I don't know.
McMillan's a good one, too. McMillan's a good one.
Yeah. Well, Tajay Spears, I think Brenton Strange. Like, A.D. Mitchell is absolutely going to score this week, but I can't go to that well again. Yeah, I'll go with McMillan. Right. His market's probably still offering value. Yeah, I like it. And we're parlaying it. Come on. Yeah, we'll go with those two.
Yeah, Devo's the less likely one to score in this scenario.
Yeah, that's true. We should go with Fant and McBride.
Oh, man. Yeah, right. No. I mean, McBride it is fun. I think they're going to try to get him one. They tried to get him one, and he stopped at the 1. So, like, it's happening. Yeah. All right, that's going to do it here for us. NFL Week 16 Fantasy DFS preview. Again, we will be dropping an episode breaking down a Christmas slate next Monday, separate from this episode. Be sure to check out Fantasy Labs for all of our fantasy football content and use code FLEX40 for $40 off. Sean's on X at @_odds maker. I'm at Chris Raybon, and we're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Happy holidays, everybody, and let's get and give this money.